Hi guys, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from Lindsay Reviews. I know it's been a long time since I've done a review. I've got a bunch more CD and vinyl. Some more has come today, so I'll be reviewing some more, do not worry. So this is what I'll be reviewing today is the standard 3 CD version of the 2018 remaster or remix of the Beatles' eponymous White Album. The Beatles, of course, remixed by Giles Martin, who I believe has been doing the work on previous remixes. So, for example, Sgt. Pepper's. So basically today, as I said, we're going to look at the 3 CD version, which is labelled as the Beatles and Esher Demos. Basically, yep, as we look on the track listing on the back, we have the 2018 remaster or remixes, I'm going to refer to them as remixes, of the original album, which of course is split over 2 CDs. One CD has 17 tracks, the other CD has 13 tracks. As well as, so that's all bunched together, whereas on the usual version, and by usual I just mean the 2009 remaster I have, I must very much like this album to have it on 2 copies. As you can see, it doesn't necessarily split them, but you can see more of a, clearly this is where Birthday starts, is where the second CD is, whereas we have it all together on the first CD. I guess it's the same kind of layout, as well as the Esher Demos, which is obviously, I want to say it was recorded at George Harrison's house, but please don't tell a word for that. They're basically acoustic demos, early versions of songs that would later become what they were on the album. So we got songs that we of course know, like Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, Obla Dee Obla Da, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. However, we also have some other sort of outtakes from that session, so songs such as Sour Milk Sea, Junk, Child of Nature, and Circles, Not Guilty and What's a New Mary Jane, and then obviously what went on to be on the final Abbey Road album, Me, Mr. Mustard, and Polythene Pam. Of course, that was part of the side 2 Abbey Road medley. So basically it's packaged in this lovely digipack, and it's really quite thick. It's got 3 CDs, but this only has 2 CDs. This is the 2009 remaster. Of course, 2009 remaster, as you can see, has the standard, what would have normally been on it, the just standard embossed print, and then the slipcase comes out, and you have the Helvetica Askew font, but in black. And then even then, that's only got 2 CDs, but as you can see, it really is quite thin. Which is always quite cool, and it obviously flips out into 4 panels, the thickest of which is this first panel, which obviously has the booklet and the little lyric sheet that also has pictures. This is far thicker. They've really gone out of their way here. I really quite like this. So let's get on with it. So I can't fit all 4 panels in frame, I'm afraid. But basically, when you first open it, you have once again the track listing of the original album, as well as, of course, the 4 pictures of the Beatles here, obviously John, Paul, George, Ringo. If you open it up, it really is quite fabulous. We'll go from left to right. On the left, we have, again, more pictures. Oh, I apologise. As you can see, it's not really a great setup at the moment, but it's make do. I really wanted to get this review out there. The first side or panel has the 4 pictures of the Beatles, and I'll go into more detail of what's in there later. The second panel has, if I can rotate it around if it wants to be nice, but it doesn't. The first track, obviously, with the normal Apple sort of label as would have been on the LPs. I really like they include that on the CD, and it's got the track listing. So let me just get this out. Oof, I want to be careful with it. It's one of the presents I got for Christmas. It was high on my list of priorities. So there we go. As you can see down the bottom, it has got the track listing in black. That's, of course, what would have been, I suppose, side A and B, of course, being a double album. I mean, it's such a big album, they even used it across 2 CDs. And then, of course, we have the second half, or the last 13 tracks. I'm going to refer to them as halves, but technically there's not 15 tracks on each. And then lastly, we have, of course, in the Courier sort of script typeface here, the track listing for the Esher Demos, as they're referred to, which, from what I gather, are quite highly sought after. Obviously, if you get the super deluxe versions of this, you get even more outtakes and early versions of tracks. Should have been cool to have, but I don't have all the money in the world, so I just made do for this. At the moment, it's about 15 quid on Amazon. That's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. So basically, let's quickly go through what's in here. You can really pull it out of either side, to be honest with you. Basically, when you get it out, you have this nice thick booklet, and like with Sgt. Pepper's, which I do have, but I don't have to hand right now, it's got a thick booklet. It's not quite as thick as Sgt. Pepper's, but it's got, obviously, the pictures of the Beatles on the front. It's got, obviously, what would have been a promotional sort of poster of the album on the back at the time. It's got Introduction by Giles Martin, of course, personally remastered, and such like that. I mean, it's got, obviously, the process of the entire album. It's got Kevin Howlett talking a bit about, obviously, the Esher Demos themselves, because that's obviously quite a large part of why people get this set. Sort of describing how they got there, track listing, credits and such, obviously. The normal kind of stuff you find in a booklet, but it really is an interesting read. At my university, we had a listening session to this, where we listened to the entire thing on like a proper, sound desk in a recording studio. Blown away. That's absolutely what... I already had the 2009 remaster, but I instantly said, Mum, look, if you're going to get me anything for Christmas, get me this. And obviously she couldn't really understand why I wanted this twice. She likes the White Album, but she thinks it's very hit and miss, which I thought at first. But and obviously we have this, in case you haven't seen, on the 2009 remaster, this old picture of John. It's a 6-panel sort of fold-out, which has got all the lyrics to all the songs. And then on the back, we've just got sort of various pictures of the band, sort of behind the scenes. It is cool, I suppose you could put it up as a kind of mini poster if you wanted to, but I usually just keep it. I've got 2 copies of it now, so I guess I definitely could if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. And they just slide in there, they're the sort of thickest part. And as if the packaging, I mean, it's very nicely well packaged together, I have to say. There's no kind of slipcase, so yes, sometimes it can be a bit uneven and a bit wonky with how exactly it's, just by gravity, but it's very nice. I like the fact that they chose to keep the normal emboss. They didn't actually have, unlike with the 2009 remaster, where, as I said, get it out a slipcover, and you actually have the alternate cover where it's got written there. They've just gone for the emboss, which I think is absolutely perfect. So what's the remix like? We'll start off with that. Well, the remix is actually, I think the Beatles remasters, this and Sgt. Pepper's, are the only remasters/remixes I've ever heard that I've actually heard a noticeable difference. Obviously, it's down to, popular debate as to whether, remasters are actually good or not, loudness wars and such like that. But although I'm not an audiophile, so that's probably why I've never really heard much of a difference when it comes to a remaster. But I cannot listen to the original version of Sgt. Pepper's now that my mum's got on CD, which is obviously, printed in, the 1970s, 80s or so, when CDs were a thing. Possibly even later. I can't listen to that compared to the new 2 CD anniversary version I've got, which I'm going to have to review at some point, I know. I probably could listen to the original version of this, it's not, we're not talking they've made it amazing, but I have to admit, when I first heard the remixed version at the university event, where I'd only previously listened to it, the 2009 remaster, I have to admit I was picking up on certain things, and a few things they left out. I think there's a couple of little voice bits here and there they've left out and skipped at the beginnings or end of songs. I'm not hugely knowledgeable on that, but personally I think all the songs sound pretty much the same but better. And obviously I'm not going to go through the original album because this is more look at the remix, this package entirely, but it is a very well made, I have to admit. It's a very well made album. It's got a list of really good songs. There's actually very few songs I skip, which for a 30-track album is pretty rare. I mean, we've got Back in the USSR, Obla Di Obla Da, The Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill. I actually really like that. While my guitar Jenny weeps, Happiness is a Warm Gun, I'm So Tired, Don't Pass Me By, Why Don't We Do It in the Road, I Will, Your Blues, Helter Skelter, Revolution 1, I bloody love that song, Savoy Truffle, Cry Baby Cry, and then obviously Revelation number 9, but we can skip that. Thankfully, there's none of those on the Esher Demos. And then on the Esher Demos, the Esher Demos are actually really interesting. I'll go on to that now, because that's probably the main part of this review. The Esher Demos are a really interesting experience. I kind of listened to a lot of them, but last night I decided to listen to them all in order without skipping a single one. And I mean, some of them, like Dear Prudence, not too far, especially Blackbird. It's not too far, obviously, from where it would ultimately go. But something like Back in the USSR is vastly different. You've got Paul McCartney sort of doing, for to sort of simulate percussion, which I think is really interesting, I have to admit. We've got Revolution. I think Revolution and The Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill are personal favourites to me. I think those are the two I absolutely love for the Esher Demos, because they have some good behind-the-scenes stuff. They have some claps that add to it, and it just sounds really good, I have to admit. But they're all obviously very interesting to get into the minds of the Beatles and see almost where some songs started out as quite different and quite bare bones, and where those then sort of moved on into what they became, I think is very interesting. As for the new track, Sam Looks See, I do quite like, I have to admit. It's quite an interesting sound. Junk is okay. Child of Nature, I quite enjoyed. The quite slow tracks. Circles is a 2-minute song I really couldn't get behind. I really wanted to. It's George, bless him, I think. But I don't know. It's where's a song about circles. Mimus Must and Polythene Pam are very interesting to hear, especially when you think that Polythene Pam, without all the sounds, you can really hear them trying to go for that Liverpudlian accent, where they're sort of repeating verses because they clearly haven't got all the lyrics yet. Not Guilty and What's New Mary Jane are both good songs. I do quite enjoy those, and they're a good end to the Esher Demos. I mean, it's really interesting. I would say get this anyway, even if I'm not interested, because I know 15 quid's a bit much, and you can get, I think, this 2009 remaster for about 10 quid, but personally 5 quid. I would get this one just because I think the change is noticeable. But go on Spotify, go on YouTube, listen to it yourself. I personally think it's really good. I'm really happy with this. I'm really happy to have it. There's not a single part where I think, oh yeah, 15 quid. I had spent on me for this. I could have got something else, but I very much like it. I have to admit, it's very well made. It's very well produced. Giles Mullins does an absolutely excellent job. So I would suggest buying it. I think if it was over 50 quid, 15 quid, I think you'd be asking for a bit too much. But as it is, I think it's really enjoyable. And I'll be back probably reviewing Sgt. Pepper's 2 CD anniversary version from 2017 last year. Just about last year, obviously. Unless I end up uploading this after today. Today is the 31st of December. So Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Christmas. And if not, just remember that we've always got the Beatles. And hey, that's good enough, isn't it? See you soon.